Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hey everyone, it's Walter from iWalter. Yeah, you know what? I'm getting a late start. This whole weekend of Valentine's Day, and President's Day on Monday. The whole thing is just depressing to begin with, but plus I was burned out from my job. So I actually slept all day yesterday, got up and did a couple errands, and then today was the same thing. I slept until 4:30. Now, one thing I did late last night, I was up late last night, is I decided, like, you know what, I just want to get this done with. I did my taxes, or as joke is between friends, tax sums. I did my state, my federal, and now I got my local done. It's called Berkheimer, where I live. And it was really annoying. So I had my father last week because he was just driving me nuts. He hasn't even done his taxes. In fact, he looked at the paperwork a couple times and not even did a pencil mark on any of his taxes, but yet he was pushing me to get mine done. Which I have that OCD thing. I was going to do it anyway. It's just that voice in my head, like Stern said, I guess with his mother's voice is my father's voice in my head. So I got it all done, and I asked him, because he called last week. Berkheimer is, again, the local for us, for where I live. And I said, can you just find out what I need to do, because it looks like I owe like $1,500 in taxes for this, that, or the other thing, and I didn't even make that much. I made like $32,000 last year. It was awful. I'm used to making 80, 90, 100,000, not 32, but that's what my new thing is. So he checked into it, and he says, oh, you don't need to put this on. I had withdrew money from my 401k and had unemployment. He says, yeah, you don't need to claim that. The 1% part of your taxes really are not concerned about that. I was like, okay. So I did it last night. I did my tax forms last night for Berkheimer. And it came up that I came ahead $1. I was like, okay, this is what I want to see. I don't want to owe money. I want to see that I don't owe nothing. I've never had to pay my 1%. So I got it all done. I printed all of this paperwork. My father, I just have him put it in a folder in his room every year, my tax form. So because he has an office, just a place to store stuff. And everything was all over the place. Like, I couldn't find any of my W-2 forms, which I had received either in the mail, online, whatever, and I print them out. So most of the information was missing. So I had to dig, soul search for a lot of stuff, and it was really annoying. So that's why I was up so late. And then when I finally got the paperwork together, I figured out, okay, I gave the information that Berkheimer was asking me, because you just, it basically asks you, okay, we need line 15, 16, and 17, whatever that is, line 7, whatever, line 8. But I gave them precisely what they asked for, and then they calculate. Then they take your information, the business number for the company you work for. I actually had 3 different companies that I was working for. One was a temp agency. The other one were legitimate jobs. One job actually hired me out from the temp agency. So that's why I had 3 W-2 forms. And my dad had asked this place, Berkheimer, he says, does my son need to put down the 1099 form? Because it's a 1099-R. That's for the early withdrawal. They said, no, we don't. 1%, local doesn't care about that. Does he have to put down for unemployment? No, they don't care about that. It's like, okay, that's all I need to hear. So bottom line is, he was coming back to me tonight and saying, oh, I don't think you did your taxes right. What? You told me that I don't owe anything. Well, actually, you didn't pay enough taxes. Like, the man is so freaking bored. He just has to look for difficulty and everything. And it really, really just drives me insane. And that's a short drive. I've said that joke so many times. Anyway, for some interest of mine, I wanted to see what was the number one movie this weekend. I actually wanted to go see Fantasy Island because there's a guy I work with. I consider him a friend. He actually has been watching this series on YouTube, Fantasy Island. I was like, yeah, I really never could get into that show. Same thing with Love Boat because it was the same time period. I never really could care less about the show. But he kind of intrigued me on a couple things that I didn't realize about the show as he's watching it on YouTube. The whole series, somebody actually posted it up. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So, the thing is, I looked, and it was like, I don't think Harley Quinn came in number one. They actually changed the name of Birds of Prey, give or take where you find the name of title of the movie. It was called it's on Box Office Mojo, still the same. Box Office Mojo names it Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Anticipation of One Harley Quinn. And that was a bit lengthy. And plus, the movie, let's face it, is all about Harley Quinn for those like myself who had went to see the movie. And they just shortened it now to Harley Quinn. And that was about it, with a little bit about Birds of Prey in there. So, yeah, they changed the title just because it was not only lengthy, it was just misleading. So, anyway, it came in number one just because there was really no competition for the film. It came in number one at $32 million. And that's kind of a joke because I think even the movie Joker, I think that made it the first night it made $32 million. And that wasn't even open at night. That was the night before. So, yeah, that is very bad. It surprisingly, well, yeah, kind of, came in number two because it got beat out by Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, which that movie made apparently only $11 million, but let's see what it says. They said it's going to make 70 for the weekend. Again, either way, that is extremely bad. It only got beaten out. Birds of Prey only got beaten out just because the fact that, it came in number two, I should say. It only came in number two this week just because there was all these crappy movies out. So it didn't have much competition. So I'm a bit disappointed. I really wanted more out of this film. I like the DC movies. That's the only reason I'm saying that. So yeah, I was kind of depressed on that. Yeah, it says total worldwide is 145 million at this point. That's really bad. That's for Birds of Prey, by the way. And it's for 2 weeks. That's 14 days, and it made that much. And the benefit of these films are, with the exception of myself, there's a ton of people that have off tomorrow as well, which is going to be Monday. By the time, actually it is, let me rephrase that, because it is actually after midnight. So it is technically Monday morning. So, yeah. Within the time period of 14 days going on 15, the movie made jack diddly squat. Sorry. Anyway, I did post a couple stories first. I want to kind of knock out 3 stories and then one thing I wanted to comment on and then get into my main thing, because the name of this episode, I told my friend Matt, I was going to call it Prima Donnas. And actually, I should have put something up on that. I did not. It was a movie. Oh, shoot. I really don't want to do this now. There was a movie that I watched on Singuli, and it was called The Mole People. I'm trying to do this without making a lot of noise with my keyboard. And it was a B horror movie from like 1957. There was Mole People also in Superman, so I don't want to get it confused. The Mole Men. Mole People, 1956. Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible movie, but there was something about it I wanted to mention about that, too. But that wasn't the main reason I wanted to call this episode Prima Donnas. I'm just kind of commenting on my friend Matt says, you've done this topic a million times, and I said you're going to laugh at me because you're going to find some way to divert it into me, make it about me, that I'm a prima donna. It's like, I'm not trying to focus myself, I'm not trying to self-reflect, which Matt, you will say I am doing. But yeah, and he said he agreed with me, so I appreciate that, Matt, on the way I explained it to him. But there's a lot of people anymore, they just get away with whatever, and if they don't get their way, they will complain to the proper people until they get away with what they want, or until they get their way. So it made me think Mole People wasn't about prima donnas necessarily, but there was something about it I was interested I was going to mention. So I'm going to make sure I keep that open. Already, I just buried the story I actually wanted to use first as more of an entertainment thing. It was really funny. Some light-hearted story I thought was just very humorous, and now I buried it because now I'm actually taking advantage of this 42-inch screen more so than I was able to do before because I'm actually doing my podcast on my desktop for a change as opposed to doing on the laptop. It makes a big difference. Anyway, a friend from my old job, his name's John. There was many people with the name John at my old job, and they were all males, surprisingly. I know, isn't that a shock? But this guy, John, put this story up on Facebook, and I had a laugh. I mean, when you think you've seen everything, there's always something new. And it was a story that says man uses underwear to disguise his face during a gas station robbery. And it's tidy whities over his head is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, they even give the guy's name. It was just funny. If you get to the point in life where armed robbery seems like a good idea, you obviously aren't thinking clearly. However, if you plan on getting away with it, you probably want to be a little bit more thoughtful about your choice of disguises. This is what this story says. I'm actually reading this, surprisingly. Unfortunately, a 26-year-old Sean McComrick missed his memo and decided to wear that a pair of underwear would do the job. I mean, come on. That is hilarious. They got pictures of the freaking guy. So the guy uses a pair of tidy whities to hold a gas station up. It's like, I don't know. I mean, what is happening to people? I mean, maybe that's part of what I've been saying about prima donnas, that not necessarily directly, but this guy is such a moron as a robber. I mean, I heard of idiot robbers, but that one takes the cake. So I just had to put that in there. There's a lot of local stories that are just kind of crazy almost. Oh, wait, maybe not, because it says Harris County, Texas. A story I saw last second. I was like, okay, I'm going to put this up. These are Harris County's top 10 suspects wanted in animal cruelty, and it gives all the name of these people. And the picture looked pretty hideous of these people, for one thing. But on animal cruelty, let's see, the names of the people, cruelty, non-livestock animals on every one of these individuals. That was pretty creepy. So I'm done with that one. But then, you know what? I haven't heard from this lady in a long time. There's this woman called Activist Mommy. She actually has an official webpage now, which I'm really glad to see. So I saw that on Facebook. It's like, yeah, because she got suspended a few times from Facebook. I feel really bad for her. So now she's actually got her own webpage. So I'm, you know what? I tip my hat for her. She's actually a rather attractive lady too. But she's one of my people, meaning that she's a conservative. And she's really, really good. But she constantly got shut down on Facebook. And I don't know if she has a page, but somebody posted one of her stories and a link to her official page, which, again, I'm really happy to see. Anyway, she posted an article on her page. High school student athletes sue to keep biological males out of girls' sports in Connecticut, which again, that's another tip of my hat there. The families of these 3 student athletes are filing a federal lawsuit one day before the start of the state's indoor track championship in hopes of ensuring a fair competition by keeping biological males from competing. Because there's this whole thing now where this is part of the prima donna thing. If you think you're a female or you get brainwashed to think you're a female, that's the thing that kind of got me started on this prima donna thing. I'll explain it in a second. But yeah, you know, part of it is there's guys, I mean, I probably would have done that back in the past. I'm not going to lie about it if I could get away with it. Saying, I make that joke at work sarcastically. Well, if I could say, hey, I feel like a female, just to get in the ladies' locker room, I probably would have done it. And back in high school, when I was not now, but when I was 17 or 16, whatever. There have been a few times I wouldn't mind doing that, but it's just, bottom line is it's complete nonsense. And what made me want to see, this is the thing I didn't get to explain quite well to my friend Matt, why I wanted to call this show Prima Donnas. Is that there are people, and I got fooled one time. I really got fooled. I got the wool pulled over my eyes. I go down to this Oaks comic book convention. They generally have them every month. They have a different convention going on pertaining to toys, comic books, whatever, down in Oaks where I live. It's called the Greater Philadelphia Expo, whatever. So they kind of slowed down the beginning. It's a brand new year, but they're going to start picking up, and they're pretty cool. But I went to a few of them, because they're not that expensive. It's like 15 minutes from the house. I don't mind doing it, so I actually enjoy it. And I can take my camera or my iPad and take some pictures of some people that look quite unique because they're dressed up in cosplay. And I have a blast with it. But a couple times I was like, wow, these look like kind of cute girls. And then I find out they're not girls at all. They're guys. They're young guys. And it's like some of them actually, not that they have breast augmentation or whatever like that. That's another one I gotta find now. I should look through my Facebook. But yeah, they just know how to put the makeup on, wear a dress or spandex or whatever, and they look like females, in the cosplay costumes. They really do. I don't think I'm that blind yet. I'm pretty close, but not quite. I gotta type in Facebook because there was a story that was what I always complain about too. Oh, my friend Todd just put up a story. YouTube is deleting videos of Nazi history as a part of hate speech crackdown. And it has a picture of Hitler. But yeah, there's quite a few people, by the way, that I've saw at these Comic Cons, and I really, really honestly thought they were girls. Flat-chested girls, obviously, but girls. And then, lo and behold, you find out that they're actually guys. So, once again, that's happened more than once. I can't find this story. I might have to pull it up on my... You know what it is? This is a problem with Facebook. If you post something that, kind of doesn't fit their agenda, they're going to take it down. And I think that's happened again. There was something over a woman like actually spend $30-some thousand on breast augmentation and butt stuff. But and she's not paying her bill. Oh wait, they didn't. Single mom. It's from the Daily UK, so it's actually single mom. So I'm going to talk about that. But yeah, there's this one guy. It was like, and he's even, I thought he was a girl. He's always at the Oaks conventions. He's the ones down in Philly. He has a boyfriend, but he only poses as a girl. So I was like, you know what? This kind of looks like it really is not a girl. I was totally fooled. So, I send the link on Instagram to my one friend, Todd, and I said, is this she a he? And he said, that is definitely a guy. It's like, really? Because I wasn't sure. That's why I'm asking. But you see this more often. This is what I'm going in with the prima donna thing, too, by the way, because you got so many guys now who are convinced they were born the wrong sex. Like, they're brainwashed to think this stuff. And a lot of the guys are like wussies. I mean, I hate to say, I asked my friend, or I told my friend Todd in messages, and he responded back agreeing with me. Like, when I was in high school, I went to Methacton High School years ago, and if you went in and you were gay, and he said he experienced the same thing. He said there was a black guy who was gay, and he dressed up when he was in high school, because we're both like in our 50s, so that was 40 years ago, 30 some years ago. And he said the guy wore a dress and makeup, and he said he never did it again or he never saw the guy again. The bottom line, it has nothing to do with it. It was black. The thing is, years ago, if you were a white guy, let me put it that way. Let me just make it less about political correctness. And you came in and you wore a mini skirt and a halter top with a padded bra and pad in your butt, and you dressed up in a wig and makeup, you wouldn't make it out alive from the school back in the day. You would either get shamed or beat the crap beat out of you. Nowadays, it's like, well, you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to wear a panty thong and spandex miniskirt and you're a guy, and tuck your package in between your legs and say, I'm a woman, you can totally get away with that now with no questions asked. I mean, it's just changed so much over the years. There is no such thing. I apologize for being so making people uptight who may listen to me, but it has changed so much. Everybody is, and you can't say anything without you will get reprimanded as a heterosexual person. Doesn't matter if you're a male or female. It doesn't matter about your ethnicity. If you agree that is wrong, trust me, it doesn't matter who you are. You are going to be reprimanded. You're actually probably even be thrown in jail. At least ostracized, at the least. So I'm just letting you know. So this is the whole thing I kind of was trying to steer towards, the whole prima donna thing. Anyway, since I do have this up, I'm burying my other stories I wanted to mention. The Daily Mail actually had up the other day. It's a single mother who racked up, it says 38,000 pounds in credit card debt on mommy makeover surgery, included a butt lift and a designer vagina claims, whatever that is, because it does say vagina claims. It's no different than paying off a mortgage or a university fee. So she's justifying her actions. Tracy Kiss from Aylesbury has spent over 45,000 pounds on cosmetic tweaks and surgery. And again, that's been like, it said somewhere in here, she's gotten 3 breast augmentations, meaning she got her breast enhanced 3 times, her butt, lip stuff, and her whole back is covered in tattoos. So, yeah, this is what I'm talking about with these prima donnas. Like, you have to, if somebody wants something done, hey, you can't stop them because they're, they've been mistreated in life, so you gotta cater to what their needs. We have an individual like that I know, I won't say from where, that when they don't get their way, they go above whoever is in charge's head until they get the answer they want. Have I done that before? Am I guilty of that? Yes, but to this extent that I'm talking about this one individual, not quite the same. Trust me, not quite the same. Because I'm the one out in the cold. They are not. So it depends who the, excuse me, I lost my voice for a minute there. It does depend on who the individual is. And if you are, I hate to say this, of the right origin or sex, you will get your way if you cry enough. And that's what I'm talking about with these prima donnas. This is exactly what I wanted to say. Nothing else, but yeah, it is really, really bad. All right, I posted some story twice on my Facebook. I didn't realize that. One of the things I noticed, I think this is a left media thing, by the way. I'm going to mention this real quick as a side note. But I have T-Mobile right now. I used to have Verizon, and T-Mobile is not the greatest. It's pretty crappy, but I got it because it's cheap. Actually, they're for their internet type thing on the go. I don't know what you call that, like the internet. I got that for my iPad Pro. It works phenomenal. And on the phone, if you want to do internet stuff, it's beautiful. If you want to make a phone call, forget it. It's pretty bad. Anyway, it was on AOL.com. Sprint T-Mobile merger could lead to thousands of job losses is what it says. I think it said like 40,000, 20,000. I mean, it's a lot of jobs. 24,000 it says. Could be laid off. Because there's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be overlapped by both companies. So basically, in my opinion, it's going to be corporate people that are going to lose their jobs. Has that happened before? Yeah, there was a couple places I worked, that they did this merger. And yeah, you had duplicated jobs. So what are you going to do? I mean, it's a company thing it's nothing that started under Bush. That's what I want to say. It's not a Bush thing. It's something that's been going on for many years on many different companies. But I'm sure what it's going to come down to in an equation that it has to be something with politics, it has to be something with Trump, or it has to be something with the Republicans. I almost said Democrats. Yeah, I wish. Because I'd love to hear them get thrown under their bus like the Republicans do constantly. So anyway, I just threw that in there. Microsoft, since I am using a PC again, which has its ups and downs, mostly so far, knock on wood, I have a wooden desk. It actually is wood, I believe. Matt, you have the same thing. Is that wood? I just knocked on it. It's been working very well because I pulled out, there was one conventional hard drive. I replaced it with a 4 terabyte SSD drive. I took out a 1 terabyte. So everything in this machine is solid state. I didn't want any moving parts whatsoever. So everything is solid state, meaning there is no moving parts. Anyway, so since I have, and by the way, if you don't use that, if you're using Microsoft, I don't know if they make that for Mac though. But I always was a big fan of Safari. Safari had its issues, but for the most part, it was really good. But now they actually use a Chrome, Google Chrome-based OS now, Microsoft Edge. And it actually works really damn well. So I got to give them kudos for that. If you don't have Microsoft Edge, I would recommend that for a computer because it's very fast, too. If you have a fast system, you might as well take advantage of it. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time doing stuff like I am doing on the internet. I mean, you know what? I'm almost at the half-hour mark already. That's unbelievable. This is going fast. I'm trying to keep these within an hour. So whatever is not done, I'm probably going to have to shave it off until next time. I probably didn't get quite into the Prima Donna thing, but I gave Matt my spiel. And why? Because, Matt, you're my only listener, faithful listener, so why repeat myself? Even though I gave a little bit on the Prima Donna thing. Not quite as much as I was intending to originally. Anyway, and this is good because I found a couple stories just to post up. One from Microsoft News is it said, was on the news tonight, 2 men killed in a large avalanche in Colorado. So I, feel bad about that, especially since they were very young. Dylan Block, 28, and Caesar, I'm not going to pretend I know how to not, pronounce this other guy's last name, age of 30. So, yeah, I mean, when you go mountain climbing, you got to be very careful. So my heart goes out to these guys. Not that I know them. It happened like on the recording of this podcast, it said 1 hour ago. So that's how new this news is. That's good, isn't it? Another interesting one that caught my attention, and that happened on the 15th of February. It was titled from the Limerick Patch, Resident Shoots Kills Alleged Intruder in Collegeville. Okay, I didn't realize it actually did say that. So, yeah, I mean, this is good. This is why you want to have a gun, and you should not have your guns taken away. Somebody broke into an individual's house. The individual did have a gun to protect himself, and I'm not sure if he had a family, himself and the family, and it came in very handy because he was able to shoot and kill the protruder, the person who was on their property illegally, who broke into the house. So what is wrong with that? Nothing. And most of the time, these people who break in your house aren't very friendly either. You're not going to get a person that says, who breaks in your house and says, "Hey, how are you doing? Hey, want to sit down and watch The Big Bang Theory with me? Or do you want to have a cup of coffee? We're just going to shoot the shit and play some video games." I seriously doubt that. So, yeah, if somebody breaks in your house illegally, generally it's not to have a conversation. Let me let you know that. And just in case you may have not known. Because, you know what, there's people out there who really don't have a clue. I'm whittling down this stuff quickly or faster than I expected. There was a story from Milwaukee from Microsoft News. Wisconsin mother, 2 daughters found dead after Amber Alert issued boyfriend his arrest. So, I don't know. That's another thing that just seems to go. A mother and the 2 daughters who were the subject of an Amber Alert were found dead Sunday afternoon, the victim of apparent homicide. Looks like the woman was 26 years old, and her daughters were 5 and 4 years old. So that's not too cool. Anyway, that was on actually MSN. That was in Milwaukee. Just figured I'd kind of just lighten the mood, and well, that's not lighten the mood at all, but very wrong choice of words, Walter. Yes, I know. But this is good. There was a guy I was talking to at work, and I was actually kind of surprised by this. I was going to say intrigued, but that wouldn't be the proper terminology. Anyway, there was this guy who said, "Oh, did you hear what's on the news?" He's a very religious, very Christian male that I work with. He's a single guy, and his only companion, believe it or not, is a cat. Guy's like in his mid-60s, too. He's a really nice guy. He's in really good shape. When I see him, it's like, when he told me he was like 64 or something, it was like, really? You look like you're a lot younger than that, like by 10 or 20 years. So anyway, he's a very religious person. He keeps up on the whole, thing with biblical, is that the right word? Biblical text and religion and everything. And he's actually kind of right. But he said, "Did you hear what's happening with the locust swarms?" And it's like, yeah, that is something that was written in the Bible about, end of days with locust swarms and stuff like that. Well, that actually really is happening. That's what really kind of, and this was like a story I found from a month ago. Not even, January 25th of 2020. It says, "This is huge. Locust swarms destroy crops in East Africa." And it says, Kenya, the hum of millions of locusts on the move is broken by the screams of farmers and the clanging of pots and pans, but it actually is not really working. But the boy, it says right here, but their noise making does little to stop the ferocious insects from feasting on the crops in the rural community. So, yeah, they say this is like the worst the worst outbreak of desert locust in Kenya in 70 years has seen hundreds of millions of these bugs swarm in East Africa nation from Somalia to Ethiopia. So, I mean, this is really scary. I mean, it goes on. It's a lot more to this story, which I'm not going to read. I'm going to save everybody. But, yeah, this is something definitely out of the biblical times that forewarned of the end of days, so to speak. So I heard this, and it was like, part of me was like, kind of agreeing with him in this way, like thinking inside my mind, boy, I'm going to kind of walk away, and hopefully he doesn't see that it's a little bit creepy that you're saying this, but he's right. That's the thing. He's absolutely right. So maybe with this thing where I wanted to call this episode, going back to that, a Prima Donnas and this conceitedness of many human beings nowadays, that everyone is the center of the attention and they live in their own world as individuals, and nobody is conglomerating to work together anymore. They want to work against each other as individuals. Maybe that's part of it, and this other part is this swarm of locusts. Maybe it's like puzzle pieces coming together, that maybe there is some truth to all this stuff. I don't know. Anyway, going into that, what I was saying about, I was watching the show Sanguli on Saturday, and normally I turn it on. I end up never watching the shows because either I'm distracted by something else or whatever, and I did this time. But they did have on this movie called The Mole People. Now, it's a really, really bad movie. But then I looked at it and was like, you know what? I got a screenshot, I should say. I didn't take it. I got a screenshot, and I used it for my iWalter little icon. And it was like, you know what, actually, I never thought of, like, even a bad movie like this from 1956 would have some type of political stance. But it really did. And it does fit into that whole thing, again, of being a prima donna, which I mentioned in I believe, the beginning of the show. Because when you looked at the film, the actual idea for the film, it was a lost civilization that ended up going underground. The people went underground because an earthquake forced him to take refuge underneath the ground, literally, and go deep down. So the people survived. It was a civilization from almost like Egyptian time that survived. But what they end up doing, the whole civilization was still intact. There was like a pocket underneath the earth where they colonized and made a big, cities and stuff like that. But what they did was certain people end up turning into some type of mutant, and they look like moles, like human moles, like biped human moles, because they adapted to being under the ground, and they turned into these hideous creatures. Very similar to, I'm sure that's where they kind of had taken the idea of, what do you call that? I'm trying to think. The Time Machine, where you had here we go again with the Morlocks and the other group of people. I always forget because it was the same kind of premise, but a different situation. It was present time. It wasn't far in the future. So the civilization was it was a caste system. And in addition to that, you had the people that were these hideous monsters that they turned into through evolution over the years. They became not only these mole people, but they also were used as slaves, and they were treated very wrongly. And a couple of them at the end, they rebelled and actually destroyed the people who were repressing them. Sounds very familiar what could happen and what does happen in many civilizations after being repressed for so many years. So that part was like really cool about it. The movie itself was just god awful. Even the costumes were hideous. But the movie premise was really cool, I thought. So that, that in that sense, and it was funny because I said this to my friend Matt, it also had the ingredients of history in there where usually the people who are on top are very pale skinned, like with slavery and old civilizations. The people who were the higher echelon were always pale complected. Why? Because they don't do any work in the fields. That's why when people have darker skin, they get put as a lower a person on the caste system or a lower common denominator in any type of civilization over the centuries, because somebody with dark skin is the person who works in the field, is pretty much the ones that are turned into slaves. And from working in the fields and stuff like that, they're obviously in better shape, but they're also much darker skin. The melatonin kicks in, the stuff that tans your skin, and probably over the generations, that's how you get darker skinned people of any origin or whatever. But they're usually looked down as being the lower class person. Well, the mole people, they were mole looking people, but in one sense, but the other thing, they were darker than their slave holders, the people in charge. And it was interesting because they also had this belief, the higher echelon, as I call them, in the mole people, that were very pale, like white, had no pigmentation, and their eyes adjusted to the darkness that they lived in, the darker areas of underneath the earth. But those people were rather weak, but they actually controlled power. But it's the same thing with, what is it? I'm trying to think of the systems that I learned in sociology. Like you had, I don't want to look that up. I honestly do not want to look it up. But yeah, there's different levels that we changed the terminology. Well, I learned this years ago when I was taking Soc classes. And I can't remember for the life of me. And you know what? It's actually 42 minutes into the show. No, I don't want to lose this page. Let's see if I can find it. Anyway, different cast of people. If I can't, it's not that important. It'll probably come to me too. Different cast. Sorry about that. I actually have a keyboard you can hear. Yeah, I can't find it. There was terminology used to use for the people who worked, like, even in not modern times, but I'm trying to think, like, Middle Ages. You had the people who worked the fields. You had the lower class, and then you had the people that were in charge, like the kings of the castle or whatever, and you had the people who worked underneath you. And there was like different terms for that stuff, and I can't remember those for the life of me. But the bottom line is, it's not really wanted to go into a whole thing about that. But this mole people, it's just called the mole people, actually kind of fit into this category, people being categorized or even casted. And over the years, they evolutionized into like subservient monsters for the mole people. And then you had the upper class who were mistreating these mole people to the point that they actually beat them to death to make examples out of them. So, yeah, it's kind of like, and the people that were the upper class, the ones who are the ones in charge, I hate to say it, but yeah, they were like a lot of them were the prima donnas because everything was about appearance, which is exactly what a prima donna is. They were more focused on their looks, their appearance, and that was their value. And then believe it in this false prophet they called a god, which was really the surface because they lost touch with what their religion really was. And since they lived in caves or deep down inside, there was like when it was, daylight outside on the surface of the world, they saw that as like a sun god. And they believed like the surface or the everything above the dirt above them was actually like looking at the stars. So I'm not doing a very good job, but I think it kind of might make sense. But I mean, the point is, though, again, the whole thing with the mole people. If you look at the movie for like just as the movie, it's horrible. But if you look at the premise that was underneath of it, it actually is pretty interesting. I guess people don't bother to look into things like I do. Like, actually, it was funny. I'm looking at this now. I totally forgot. The guy who played on Batman, Alfred, is one of the main characters, one of these main people that live underneath the ground in the Mole Peoples. You could not recognize the guy at all. I didn't realize that was him, actually, until I just looked it up. So that was pretty cool. I don't know that actor's name. I'm actually looking at Alan Napier, I think it is. Or is it Napier? But yeah, he's the guy who played Alfred. I probably said his name wrong, but the movie's only 78 minutes. If you just like to watch an old classic, and just don't look at it for, oh my God, it's such bad, like I'm explaining, that it's just a bad quality film. Overlook that and kind of look at the premise underneath of it, because I think you get a lot more out of it with the premises of this film. And I'm looking at, apparently, I mean, it's got to be a classic film because obviously people were influenced by this, because I'm finding a lot of, influential like figurines and models and other stuff that people have made and collected over the years. So to me, that's actually saying something. That, as bad as this film was, or as poorly, I don't want to say edited, but the way the costumes look, how as poorly as they may appear, there was something about it that people like, whoa, you know what, this film really had, it doesn't need, because nowadays you got films that show you everything. They have great special effects, but then you look at the film itself, like the contents, the substance, there is no substance to the film. So this one, I would take that, yeah, it's really poorly put together. I mean, it's a cheesy, if it would have had like flying saucers in there, they would probably be pie plates on shoestrings, which it's not about that. But I'm just trying to give you a picture of how low budget this film was. If you take that out of the equation and you actually look at the film for what it's trying to tell you or represent underneath the film, then maybe you would probably appreciate it some more, a lot more than what it really is showing you. So bottom line is, don't look at what it's showing you, but look at what it's trying to, put forth as far as like a message of some sort. Now, they have some guy in the beginning that gives all these wacky, a real professor who gives all these wacky theories that people had about the heavens above. And they said Sanguli said that he did that as a filler because the movie was kind of short. So they had to fill the time to make it look like at least it was a regular hour and a half movie, because it really wasn't. It was like under an hour and a half. It was like an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. So that's not quite the length of any film. So they had to pad the time. I thought you take it for kind of what it's worth and not what you see, and it ends up being really cool. all right, I just wasted 10 minutes explaining some movie, and I didn't get to, like, the stuff in that subject that I wanted to, and it's not important. But I wish I could remember the names of what they used to call. I want to do one more attempt. I really, it's my OCD thing. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry about the delay. I'm just putting in what were the middle-aged workers. Middle-aged definition. There was like different. I don't know why it's like. No, even you have to be precise, I guess. I'm now putting as far as their cast. No, it's not helping either. You know what? I really apologize. Maybe if I can remember, I'll just I'll try one more thing. Label. Again, it's not important. But yeah, there was different levels of in society of like what you were, considered like the person who did the fields and the person who was the merchant and the person who would basically you worked for as a merchant. There was, like different levels of hierarchy, but it was definitely more of a caste system because being born as like in this movie, and I think that's what I'm trying to say. If you were born as a farmer, I mean, not as a farmer, but as a person who worked the fields, working on the crops and stuff like that, then you would always be there. That would be considered, again, like part of the caste, some sort of... Oh, sorry about that. That scared the crap out of me. Well, I just had a bump, and I scared the crap out of myself. That was my Siri thing. Or not Siri, that was my Alexa. She was talking to me. I should actually ask her. Sorry about that scream, folks. That scared the crap out of me. I didn't expect her voice to come on. Alexa. But yeah, there was different levels that you would work. But again, it was kind of like a caste system. If you think about it, it probably is a caste system where if you always work the fields, you would always work the fields. I mean, your offspring would be doing the same thing. If you were the person in charge, like of the person who owned the fields, the grounds, and you had other people work on there, your offspring would just take over from where you left off of being the person in charge, and so on and so forth, up or down that line of that system. And again, this movie of the Mole People kind of did a really good job of, I think, portraying that in a science fiction way. So, I don't know. Maybe, again, most people would say you're just reading into it too much. Maybe I am. I don't know. I'm almost at 10, almost at my hour mark. And that scream just makes me feel really embarrassed. I didn't expect that. Anyway, tonight my mother was watching. It's on Elroy. It's a channel on cable, which I don't have cable anymore. I haven't had cable in over a year now, maybe 2 years, actually. Because my father got rid of my cable box in the room, and I don't really care. But there was a thing on Elroy. I stepped into our TV room, and she was watching something called Masters of Horror. And it's only 2 seasons I'm looking at right now on Prime. And you can get both seasons for like $7 a season. That's not bad. And you can stream it because they are charging for it. But it's not bad. It's like $7 a season. You get both seasons. So my mother was watching one, and she kind of like caught my attention when she was mentioning it. It was episode 4 from season 1 of this show called Masters of Horror. So it's called Jennifer. And it's about a girl whose face is hideous looking. She's got, like, her face is all these teeth, like her mouth and her teeth are the main part. Now, if you look at the rest of her body and her rest of her attire, she's a very attractive, long, blonde-haired woman. But she's got one flaw where she's a monster in the face. So it was like, this actually looks pretty good. It's called Jennifer again. It came out November 18th, 2005. So this is pretty old now. So what really caught my attention, I looked it up. It's like, okay, I got to look up this because I've heard of it. Maybe, Matt, you mentioned it to me before, too. This series, maybe it was a guy, Joe, at my job. Masters of Horror. So I think he did mention to me, this guy, Joe, at work, a friend. So here, Jennifer, the fourth episode for season 1 of the show, was nevertheless done by, it was produced by or directed by, whatever, Dario Argento. So it was like, whoa, okay, Dario Argento, you got me right there. Okay, I'm looking at, there's one done by John Carpenter, actually. Larry Cohen, I heard that name before. Why does that ring a bell? Anyway, I'm getting near the end. But yeah, Dario Argento. I mean, I can't stand most of Dario Argento's stuff, but yet I will watch it. Dario Argento is like one of the most popular Italian horror directors. Like, he's very well known. And most of the stuff, like I said, I just can't deal with because it's pretty bad. Now, I was watching a little bit of Jennifer, the episode called Jennifer, or titled Jennifer, and it was like, wow, this is really good. So the last thing I had in my mind is that it would have been Dario Argento who would make something that I would say, you know what, this actually looks pretty damn good. So that just that boggled my mind very much so. So I read everything off that I really wanted to read. Now, again, I don't know, because I'll just kind of round this up at this point. Did I do a good job? I don't know. On kind of, maybe I did not. On Prima Donna, the title Prima Donna. Hey, there was one last thing. Now that I'm on Windows, it's kind of a hard thing for me to get back to because I really like Apple, but it's not Steve Jobs anymore. I knew this was going to happen. Once I heard Steve Jobs passed away, I was very upset to hear he passed away, but I was more upset to hear him pass away because there goes the end of Apple. I knew this was going to happen, and I think it did. I think it is. It didn't happen yet. But, I mean, because they had these large profit shares. But I think it is going to happen. Let me put it that way. But one thing is, I used to love this program to do my apps. I mean, this is really stupid. Paint program. It's called Paint 2. That was free for Apple. It worked really well to make my little apps. And it was like, wow, I'm going to really miss that. Do they make that for Windows? No, they don't. So I'm looking for the other one that I looked around. There was one I was ready to buy. It would have cost like $30 probably. It was like, you know what? I know it's so stupid. It's just an app. Nobody's going to look at it. A picture. And yeah, a little icon picture for my episodes. So one thing that Windows gives to you on their program, it's called Paint 3D. They have a program called Paint, but it's garbage. But they have one called Paint 3D, which, I hate to say it, is really nice, and it is free. So, if you have, you can take regular photos. It's called Paint, but you can take regular photos, and you can do a lot with it. And again, it's free because I have the one from Adobe. I paid for that Adobe software, and it's good. It even has Adobe Photoshop, which has been known for years. You can take classes in college on that. But quite honestly, it is not as good as Paint 3D, and Paint 3D is absolutely free. So it's a plus all the way around. What else do I need to say? Probably nothing. So I was really happy about that. Now, it is getting down to the last nitty-gritty. It's going to go past an hour, but I did have to throw this in. I told Matt about this earlier. I might have to save it for another show, actually. But I was mentioning about Doctor Who to Matt, because Matt, and you sent me all this stuff about how bad Doctor Who is with Jodie Whittaker, and I did have to question because she's getting a lot of flack of being so politically correct and stuff. So real quick, I'm going to try to get this down to the last couple seconds, maybe a little over. But I told Matt, and this is the absolute truth, but I was watching, I stopped actually very close to stop watching. In fact, I did stop watching for a while. The new Doctor Who's with Peter Capaldi, because they just got so god-awful bad. And part of the reason for that is because they always shoved down your throat, like literally got both hands and just shoved it down your throat. If you wanted to watch it, you have to be politically correct. You have to be politically correct. So how they did that, on his very first episode, they took an old character known as the Silurians, which started out with John Pertwee when he his first season, John Pertwee. And then they brought him back again. They brought back these other creatures called the Sea Devils. They were the same, different creature, but the same type of. They were kind of around on the face of the planet at the same time, or underneath, whatever. Sea Devils were the sea creatures, and the Silurians were sea devils, but more very reptilian. And there was another type of reptile that lived biped-wise. They were bipeds, known as the Sea Devils. Both were, like, one was more, I think the Silurians were more thought processed, and the Sea Devils were more like militant type style creatures. So they brought those back, both of them together, though, back with Peter Davison, back when Peter Davison, his second season, I think, maybe his first, I can't remember. And that was really good. Then they decided to bring him back after so many years, back with Peter Capaldi. But this time, and 100% of the characters, or the creatures, were all male-based, which kind of made me kind of scratch my head. Okay, they're all male-based. That was one character. They always kept all the creatures kind of almost like they were hermaphroditic, I guess. There wasn't any such thing as a male or a female. They were all pretty much the same. But the actors, you could tell, even in the costumes, they were all males. So when they went back to the drawing board and brought him back with Capaldi, they decided to make one Silurian. And it was on the pilot episode of his start as Doctor Who. It means after he regenerated. And, get this, it was a female who was, a feminist. And because she was a feminist, and she was the remainder of the Sea Devils, had a lesbian human girlfriend. And she lived, I think, in the 19th or 18th century, the Silurian. So it was like, can you be any more politically correct? You have a lesbian wife. You're an alien on the planet. You're some type of alien, a reptilian alien, who is a lesbian with a human lesbian wife. Can you make it any more politically correct? So the bottom line is, I've never heard one complaint about that show. They brought a character on Doctor Who because the director was gay. So they brought they brought a actor on known as Jack Harkness, who was bisexual and was always kissing and making out with both the men and the women, mostly men, because he is gay in real life, because the actor was American. For once, he really was. And an open gay person, and they hired him because he was gay, and he was good looking. But they, from day one, when they brought Doctor Who back, they really forced down your throat that, one that, hey, this is a new thing. We're going to have gay people on here. We're going to have LGB, whatever. Because they also had, the one thing that saved me with Peter Capaldi, and I love the actress, she was very cute too, was this black girl who played a character named Mel. And they made her such a farce, such a comic relief. And she was, from day one, they made her that she was a lesbian. But she couldn't put one foot in front of the other. Like if she had a crush on a girl, it was really funny. She would like mess it up, and it was like and she was very cute. She was a very cute girl, and I saw her in person down in Philly, and I said, "I love you." And she was down in Philadelphia a few years ago. The actress, I went and seen her. I had to go see her with the actress who played who I saw before, who played on with Christopher Eccleston, who played the character of Rose Tyler. Now, that actress, Billie Piper, was extremely rude to me. So when I saw her again, I didn't even want to give her time of day. And she was right next to the actress who played this character of Mel down in Philly. Both are British. And I just ignored Billie Piper because it was like, you're not as entertaining. You weren't as good as the character of Bill. And the character was awesome because she definitely made the show worth watching. It was this actress who played with Peter Capaldi. But the bottom line is they force down your throat. I mean, like literally just shoving the shit down your throat. You got to like this. You have to like this. This is politically correct. Nobody complained. Not one effing complaint about that. Not that I ever saw. Now it's like in droves. The people, it's almost, I hate to say this, and this is a really bad comparison, Matt, but it's almost like when Trump won the election. It's almost the same thing. People are so used to things going their way, being a prima donna, when it does not go their way. Now, Matt, you don't think this way, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who write these negative reviews on Jodie Whittaker that the fact that they picked a female to play the character, I can't prove this, that it's the same thing like with Trump. Oh, we wanted Hillary Clinton to win, but she didn't get it. So, and I was up that night with Trump when he won the election. I really thought he lost. I was like almost, oh, well, another 8 years of Hillary Clinton now probably, or 4 years at least. Oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And then my jaw dropped when I found out they tallied up all the votes. And wait, Trump won? So I was ecstatic. I was happy. But other people, they were up until that point, well, hopefully Trump won't be a sore loser. Hopefully people, you Republicans are able to suck it up when you find out that your presidential-elect lost. When that happened that they lost, they were in shambles. They were crying and carrying on and stuff like that. I think in comparison to not getting your way, not because you're talking apples and oranges, but in comparison to not getting your way, it is exactly the same. And that's what I want to say about that, because I'm 10 minutes after this is all said and done. So I just wanted to point that out. I mean, I'm sorry, Matt. I just had to say that. I had to get that on my chest. Don't burn any crosses on my yard. I'm just kidding, Matt. I'm just kidding. I know you wouldn't do that. And yeah, I'm just kidding. Anyway, tonight I want to play a song. Matt, I don't know if I played this on any other episodes, but it's called Org, O-R-G. It was I think that was the last piece you sent me. So I want to play Org right now to end my show, or at the end of my show. So people out there, I hope you enjoy Matt's piece of music. I apologize, Matt, if I put this on another episode, but I will put it on tonight's again, or for the first time. I'm not sure yet. So thanks, everyone, for listening to me. This is Walter from iWalter, and I apologize for screaming really loud, but my what do you call it? My speaker from Amazon, my Amazon speaker, works way too well because it sounded like a real person's voice, and it scared the crap out of me. I think I might have to change my underwear tonight, too. I'm not even joking. Have a good one, everyone.